Oh, fucking squad, dude. Oh!
One eternity later.
Don't get me wrong, it's really fun to use, but it is just outshined by a lot of weapons, with every assault rifle and almost every SMG being better damage-wise. With the same actually going for any of the light machine guns as well. And that's even with the turbocharger. But Otter, that can't be true, it shreds! Well, you have to remember the reasoning for this is simple. The gun has a very low fire rate and takes a bunch of shots to hit the maximum rate of fire, because as you know it ramps up. But this is also a problem when you have it equipped with a turbocharger. The Devotion starts at 75 damage per second and ramps up all the way to 225 DPS, but by the time you hit full charge, you're already dead. You very rarely get a chance to commit to a spray against someone fully, and any other gun can hit you with shorter bursts, moving in and out of cover, and avoid taking a full fight while you're struggling with making the gun deal damage in the first place. To make matters worse, it is incredibly expensive to build to hit its full potential, needing a barrel stabilizer, aside for its horrible iron sights, a stock, energy magazine, and of course, the most important part, the turbocharger. The Devotion is now in a crafter, meaning that you know exactly where to go if you want one, but you have to understand that you're better off picking almost anything else, and instead using those crafting materials to make yourself a battery.
Hey guys, it's Randomizer here. Today, we are going to be talking about an LMG in Apex Legends called the Devotion. Let's just get started. On February 4th of 2019, the first-person shooter battle royale game Apex Legends released to the public on console and PC. In the game, at the time when it very first launched, it came with 8 different legend character options that you could choose from, and also 20 different weapons. One of them was the Devotion. It was an energy LMG in Apex Legends, and when it first launched into the game, it could do 17 body damage, 13 leg damage, and 34 headshot damage, being that it had a 2x headshot multiplier. And the interesting thing about this weapon, while it did fire 15 rounds per second, for the first 2 seconds that you would hold down the trigger button on this weapon and fire it, it would start out by firing 3 rounds per second, but then slowly ramp up to 15 bullets per second, if that makes any sense. However, if you were to equip the turbocharger hop-up on this gun, those first 2 seconds of it firing 3 bullets per second would be increased from 3 to about 6 bullets per second, if you know what I mean by that. And yes, the Devotion's Season 0 attachments that it could equip were the turbocharger hop-up, which also applied to the Havoc, which is an energy assault rifle. By the time that Season 3 launched, and all throughout it, the Devotion was powerful to the point that it could absolutely decimate and one-round opponents in seconds. Hell, it could use its entire magazine size to pretty much wipe out a whole squad. Yeah, a whole 3-man squad. That's how powerful this gun was becoming. And it was, back in Season 3. However, that wasn't necessarily a good thing, as a lot of complaints began to pile up because the gun was becoming harder and harder to counter by the day, to the point that it was becoming uncounterable. So overall, something needed to be done. Something needed to change. If this gun was to continue to be really strong and exist in Apex, something had, something drastic had to change with this gun. It could potentially be a rarity change, nerfs, etc., etc. The change that would make this gun feel more balanced overall was putting it into the care package in Season 4 of Apex Legends, alongside giving it these buffs so that it could fit pretty well in the care package. Additionally, the turbocharger, which was the Devotion and Havoc's hop-up, well, that was removed from ground loot in Season 4, considering that, the Devotion was, as I said before, going in the care package. So, obviously, to clear up the hop-up loot on the ground, they removed the turbocharger, to compensate for that. And to compensate, the Devotion went into the supply drop. And it was a very good care package weapon. Hell, probably one of the best care package weapons throughout Season 4 and 5. Overall, the Devotion was fantastic in Seasons 4 and 5. It overall fit perfectly as a care package weapon, and it was really strong. It honestly looked perfect for the Devotion at this point in time. However, some good things in this world are temporary, and the care package Devotion was no exception. On August 18th of 2020, the Devotion Season 6 launched, and with that, as I was about to say, the Devotion came back to being a floor loot weapon from a care package weapon, meaning that it was rotated out of the care package, and alongside that, the turbocharger, which was the hop-up that made the Devotion really strong in the first place, was back as well as floor loot. Now, the thing is, when a weapon normally comes out of the care package, they go from being normally when a weapon goes from being a care package weapon to a normal ground loot weapon, they get a series of nerfs that basically, the nerfs that basically make it in line with being a floor loot rarity weapon. Examples being the Mastiff, which got its damage reduced, pellet size decreased, and fire rate reduced. And the Peacekeeper got its rechamber time increased, reload time increased, damage nerfed, reduced by, 1 pellet damage, so it was under 100 damage now total. And the Spitfire, the magazine size was reduced, and the damage was reduced, and the reload time was increased, as well as the holster times. Basically, those are weapons that were former care package weapons that transitioned back to ground loot, and those were the nerfs that they received to make them in line with normal floor loot guns, floor loot weapons. Although here's the thing with the Devotion though, in Season 6, when it first came back to floor loot, it was still as OP as it was in the care package. Like, it got no nerfs or changes to keep it in line with normal floor loot weapons. So basically, it was just really strong as floor loot. It was probably, the most OP floor loot gun throughout Season 6. Well, in the very beginning of Season 6, it was way too OP and uncounterable, especially because armor was nerfed, meaning that red Evo armor only gave you an extra 100 health rather than the 125 that it did back in Season 5. Now that evolving armor was becoming the new norm, from normal armor. It was the new normal armor now in the game, the new default armor now. Basically, that's what I was saying. And because, the total amount of health that you could get was reduced pretty significantly, it made the Devotion pretty much uncounterable, and so many pros and just normal casual Apex players overall complained nonstop because Season 6 was becoming a spammy spray meta with horrifically timed TTK, aka time to kill, and the Devotion was not helping that. I'll actually leave a link. I'll leave a link to a video in the description down below showing tweets of pro players and, casual players alike, and, you just content creator, YouTubers, those type of people. I'm going to leave a link down in the description down below to showing their tweets complaining about the Devotion, and overall just YouTubers complaining about the gun in general. Although things were looking up here when approximately a week after Season 6 launched, in August, though, probably, the Devotion got nerfed. Its damage went from 17 to 16 per bullet. So now, instead of 17 per bullet, 16 per bullet. The recoil got increased, and the spawn rates for the gun were reduced pretty drastically. Although this was still not enough. People still said the gun was too strong. So about a week after that nerf that I talked about, that the gun got in Season 6, a week later, it got another recoil nerf, and also the turbocharger hop-up also got its spawn rate reduced, making the gun less and less easier to rely on than before. And honestly, the gun was still good. It was still a good gun in Season 6. However, past that, other guns started to reemerge again. And the Devotion never really got any sort of changes after Season 6. And when it did, they weren't beneficial changes to the gun. The gun didn't change in a positive way. It didn't get any buffs at all. Sure, it didn't get any nerfs, but the lack of buffs also made the gun pretty bland and boring, but, it didn't get, overall, hardly any changes to it. It didn't get any buffs or, just any balance changes to it, really, after Season 6. But yeah, the gun, other guns were basically starting to become really strong without being too strong for the most part. The Spitfire was getting hella buffed in Season 8, while the Devotion stayed the same. Other guns were starting to emerge from the meta. Like, throughout Seasons 8 through 10, the Spitfire was absolutely dominating the meta, even in Season 11 and 12 while it was in the care package. And, the L-Star, when it got buffed to hell in Season 10, the L-Star was strong all throughout Season 10. And overall, other guns people wanted to pick up more than the Devotion. You see, when people see that a gun got very strongly buffed, they are willing to gravitate towards that weapon. Whatever weapon gets it buffed, no matter what it is. That person would want to gravitate towards the gun that got buffed more than the gun that didn't get any balance changes to it. Since the Devotion didn't get any balance changes for seasons after Season 6, people just completely forgot about the gun. People completely forgot about the gun ever since Season 6. After Season 6, the gun was completely forgotten about, and new guns started to emerge, like the Rampage LMG, the Bowcheck Bow, the 3030 Repeater, the Volt SMG. And the Volt SMG was, it was a pretty damn strong weapon. And, because of that, that energy weapon was more likely to be picked up over the Devotion. So, the Volt, since it's a strong-ass energy weapon, more likely to be picked up over the Devotion, if that makes any sense. Because the Devotion doesn't really have any, it doesn't have anything to it that makes it really strong or so. Like, there's nothing to the Devotion that makes it stronger than something like the Spitfire or Spitfire or Volt SMG, I meant to say. And the car was also, it was released in November 2021, which was Season 11 of Apex. And that was a fairly damn strong weapon. The Devotion, though, was not. It was just still the same kind of mediocre weapon that it was. It was mediocre in Season 11. Sure, it wasn't terrible yet, which we will get to later, but it wasn't anything special. Nobody really wanted to use it. Because of all these other weapons were rising in popularity overall, over the Devotion, all those other weapons that I just talked about, the Devotion's relevancy completely tanked. It was becoming less relevant. And sadly, in Apex Seasons 11 through 12, the Devotion continued to fall further and further, and the only people that continued to use this gun consistently were noobs, or players that just had no taste in guns at all. Well, the Devotion completely fell to its lowest point on May 10th of 2022 when it received these nerfs to it. That was when the gun completely tanked and fell in popularity. It got a damage reduction, headshot multiplier reduction. Damn it, it had some damage drop off to it now. The holster times were now longer. And yes, overall, nobody wanted to use a gun this clunky. The reason why, because it was so clunky, people just wouldn't pick it up. Because clunky guns that don't do a lot of damage are usually the worst type of guns to use in a gunfight scenario, and the worst type of guns and the least likely overall to clutch up scuffed gunfights. And overall, yes, this is where the Devotion is at today.